All right, let's talk about Amazon Web Services, or AWS. What is it really? Well, it's basically this incredible toolkit that lets anyone, take an idea, that spark of genius, and build it into a real thing in the digital world. And the craziest part? You can do it all without ever having to buy or even touch a physical server.
Okay, so picture this. You've got it, that billion-dollar app idea. The one that's going to change everything. You're hyped, you're ready to start building, like right now.
And then, reality hits you like a ton of bricks. You don't have $1,000,000 lying around for a room full of servers, right? I mean, building a real-world app used to mean buying all this crazy expensive hardware. We're talking racks and racks of it. You could go broke before you even got your first user. That is the exact problem the cloud was designed to fix.
So, to really get why the cloud is such a game changer, we got to look at how things used to be. Let's take a little trip back in time and see the before picture. Before the cloud, if you wanted to launch an app, you literally had to build your own digital highway from scratch. I mean, you were responsible for this whole physical mess of cables and hardware. You had a router, which was kind of like the main traffic cop for your whole operation, directing data out onto the big, wide internet. Then you had a switch, which took that traffic and made sure it got to the right computer inside your own little network.
Here's a simple way to think about it. The router? That's like the main post office for a whole country, sending mail between different cities. The switch, though? That's more like the mail clerk inside one specific office building, making sure every letter lands on the right desk. And the main point here, the big takeaway, is that you had to buy all this stuff, set it all up, and keep it running yourself. What a headache.
Okay, but with the cloud, all of that physical complexity just vanishes. So let's do it. Let's build our app idea, and we're going to start with the most basic, fundamental building block, our very first virtual computer.
And this right here, this is the real magic of AWS. Instead of dropping a ton of cash to buy a server, you just rent a virtual one. This service is called EC2. That stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. And I'm not kidding, with just a few clicks, bam, you've got a super powerful computer ready and waiting for your code. So this is the dream scenario, right? Your app goes viral overnight. It's a huge hit. But with the old hardware setup, that dream could turn into a total nightmare really fast, as your one little server just completely melts under the pressure. So how does the cloud handle that kind of success?
Well, when you're just starting out, you don't need a massive supercomputer. That'd be overkill. You can just rent a small, totally affordable EC2 instance. It's got just enough juice to get your idea up and running and handle those first few curious users.
But what happens when traffic starts to pick up? You're going to need more power. The first and most straightforward way to get it is something called vertical scalability. It's super simple to understand. It's just like trading in your little compact car for a giant pickup truck. You're still driving one vehicle, but it's a single, much more powerful machine that can handle a way bigger load. And this is where the cloud just absolutely shines. Think about it. Instead of waiting weeks for new hardware to be delivered and installed, you can power up your virtual server in, like, minutes. Your app never goes down, and all those new users, they stay happy.
Okay, so renting sounds awesome and flexible, but what's it going to cost me? And hey, where do I even put all my files and data? Good questions. Let's dig into the pricing and storage side of things.
Probably the easiest way to wrap your head around AWS pricing is to think about booking a hotel room. I mean, you wouldn't book the giant presidential suite if you just need a place to crash for one night, right? AWS gives you that exact same kind of choice.
You've got on-demand, which is basically walking up to the front desk and paying the standard rate. Super flexible, come and go as you please. Then there's reserved. This is for when you know you're in it for the long haul, like a year or more. You commit up front and you get a massive discount. And then there's spot, which is the really interesting one. You're basically bidding on empty, unused rooms. You can get them for crazy cheap, but there's a catch. If someone else is willing to pay more, you might get kicked out.
And here's why this matters so much. It's all about how much cash you can save. Just look at these real-world numbers for a pretty standard server. On demand, that's 10 cents an hour. But if you're clever and can use a spot instance, or if you can commit to a 3-year reserved plan, look at that price. It plummets by over 60%. That is a huge deal. Okay, so that's the computer part covered. But what about all your stuff? The images, the videos, all your files. For that, AWS has something called the Simple Storage Service, or S3. And honestly, the best way to think of it is just like a magic infinite bucket. A digital bucket that's super durable, and you can just toss anything and everything into it.
All right, so we've got our computer, we've got our storage, we've got the basics down. But the real power of AWS, the stuff that lets you build way faster and way smarter, that's in the other specialized services.
I mean, pretty much every app needs a database, right? A place to keep track of user info and all that important data. Now, you could spend weeks setting one up yourself, or you could just use RDS, the Relational Database Service. It's like hiring a brilliant, world-class librarian who just takes care of all the boring, tedious stuff. Backups, security updates, scaling, all of it. So you can just focus on building your actual app.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about being efficient. There's a really cool modern way to run your app using something called containers. Here's the deal. Think of the old way, with virtual machines, as a neighborhood of separate houses. Every single house needs its own foundation, its own plumbing, its own roof, its own entire operating system. It's kinda heavy. Containers, though, are more like apartments in one big building. They all share the main infrastructure, the building's foundation and plumbing, or the host OS. This makes them way lighter, way faster to start up, and just a whole lot more efficient. And what does that mean for you? It means you can cram more apps onto the same hardware, which saves you money. Simple as that.
Now, what if I told you that you could run your code without ever having to think about a server again? Not even a virtual one. Well, that's the whole idea behind a service called AWS Lambda. You literally just upload your little piece of code, and AWS runs it for you whenever it's needed. And get this is the best part. Your first 1 million requests every single month are totally, completely free.
Okay, so let's recap. We've built our app. We've made sure it can scale up if it gets popular. We're running it efficiently. There's just one last, super important piece of the puzzle, making sure the whole thing is secure and running like a well-oiled machine.
Look, your AWS account is literally the keys to the kingdom. It controls your entire digital business. So, the single most important non-negotiable thing you have to do is turn on multi-factor authentication, or MFA. It is such a simple step, but it adds a massive, massive layer of security.
And here's another awesome example of how AWS helps you keep everything top-notch. Just imagine you had a senior expert-level developer literally looking over your shoulder as you write every single line of code. That's pretty much what Amazon Code Guru is. It's this AI-powered service that just automatically scans your code and points out bugs, security holes, and even suggests ways to make it run faster. It's like having a coding superpower.
So when you step back and look at it all, from that first simple virtual computer, to functions that run without any servers, to an AI that reviews your code, it's clear that the cloud gives you this incredible box of Legos. It's completely leveled the playing field. It doesn't matter who you are. If you have an idea, you now have the tools to build it, scale it, and protect it. So I guess the only question left to ask is, what are you going to build?